Warning: viewers' discretion is advised, as this may contain mature or triggering content. Story prompt: Getting Stronger. Title: Rest in Peace. "You aren't doing it right," Quentin growled as he moved to stand next to Grace, showing her the move once again. Grace groaned. "Why do I need to try and wield a knife? Why not a gun?" Quentin groaned. "Look, if you want to work with me, I don't use guns unless absolutely necessary. Too many times a person gets trigger-happy in the midst of a fight, killing their companion instead." "Do you think I would do that sort of thing?" He shook his head. "No, but I do think you aren't ready for a gun. The last time I took you with me, I had to rescue you." "Well, I'm sorry, I'm not someone ready to take on the damn world." "It was only two guys!" Grace glared at him. "Yes, because I've been fighting my whole life, and I should instantly know not to panic a bit with such a challenge for the first time." He flinched slightly. "Sorry." He ran a hand over his face. "Maybe this is a bad idea." Grace shook her head. "No! I want to know how to defend myself, and I want to help you take down the bad guys that killed my brother." His phone began to ring. "Keep practicing." She watched as he left and answered the phone. "What?" Whatever he was being told probably wasn't anything good. She sighed before returning her focus to the task at hand. She thought about how he had shown her, but she was smaller than him, and his muscle mass was twice what hers was. He was teaching her how to fight someone head-on, but she wasn't sure if she could fully do that. She frowned as she thought about how to make his fighting style work for her, and then it clicked. No matter how hard she tried to copy him, it would never work. So she had to adjust it and make it work to her advantage: speed. She was small and fast. She could take his strikes and aim for vital points. She smiled at the thought before walking over and turning on the machine he had for combat practice. Even though it didn't have legs, he had set it up so that it would rotate on gears around you and swing a wooden sword. It was a rather interesting invention. It circled her and she dodged before darting in and striking 1, 2, 3, back. While her strategy may not work well on a person with a gun, perhaps if she aimed for the wrist. Sure, she couldn't move faster than a bullet, but if she could get up on the person with a gun and stab into their wrist, then the problem would be solved. She kept it up for a while, unsure of how much time had passed by, and by the time she was done, the target was shredded in all its vital points. She was covered in a fine sheen of sweat, but smiled, jumping when clapping came from behind her. "That was pretty good. Not exactly what I showed you, but good." She nodded. "I know, but you are bigger than me and much stronger. Unless I magically gain height and a bunch of muscle mass, I will never be able to fully use what you tried showing me. So I thought about it for a bit, and I can use my height and speed, and the fact that you taught me all vital points to my advantage instead." Quentin smiled. "I knew you were smart. I'm sorry I couldn't help you very well in your training. Also, I'm sorry about getting mad at you before. I'm so used to having partners who know what they're doing and who have killed people before. I forgot I once was a novice like you." Grace shook her head. "We both got a bit frustrated, but now I think I've got the hang of this. As for killing people, I don't think I could do so intentionally." He nodded. "I wouldn't expect you to. But if it's to bring justice to my brother, then I will. These people are evil, and it seems half of the cops are in line with them. I can't even turn to them to bring my brother peace. Though he may not like me jumping into his fight, I will." He stared at her for a moment. "You two really are alike. Such strong senses of justice." He smiled. If you want to, you can become my permanent partner. You would have to go through more training, but I mean, you're already a part of this. My bosses might want to bring you in. You mean become a full-time killer? She asked with a small frown. No, don't think of it like that. You'd become a full-time hunter. Everyone we hunt doesn't always end up dead. Some of them land in prison for life, others we save from falling deeper into such evil. Grace thought about it for a moment. Maybe. I'll need to think about it. If I choose not to, will someone try to silence me? Over my dead body. Anger coursed through Quentin. I would never allow them to even attempt such. They would have to kill me first. I promised your brother I'd keep an eye on you and keep you safe. And I feel bad for even dragging you into this. She laughed softly. You aren't really dragging me. I told you, I wanted to help. Speaking of which, what was that call about, if you don't mind me asking? It didn't seem good. He sighed. One of our agents was killed by another one, who had turned against us, all because he had gotten hooked on some new strand of drugs. That's not all, though. Now that one of our agents has joined them, drugged up or not, we will have to act faster than planned. Are you ready? Grace nodded. Yes. When do we start? Right now. She gasped. Wait, what? Right now? But I feel exhausted from training. Quentin nodded. I know. We are going to meet up with the other agents and get a rundown of the plan. While I drive, you rest. Other agents? Will they even let me join? Yes. I have a special seal from the office to grant you access to even the deadliest intel on these bastards. I got it, but I wasn't going to give it to you until you were ready. I know you may not feel ready, but we can't wait anymore. She nods. Okay then, let's get them. A few hours later. Are you sure you're ready, newbie? One man asked, looking Grace over with judgment. Quentin was about to step in, but she stood up for herself. Are you sure you're ready? I've been trained by one of your best. I heard you weren't. So, which one of us is more ready? Quentin was a bit surprised she even thought to toy with another agent, but the others began to chuckle. Got yourself a wildcat there, didn't you, Quentin? He smirked. You have no idea. Grace glanced at him as he smirked, and she smiled back at him. Let's go bring my brother justice. They moved in on the large building. All of them wore black and bulletproof vests, and a badge on the side of their arm that read SMDA, Special Mafia Drug Agent. She felt sort of special being able to wear such a thing, something her brother had worn probably many years in his life since she had been informed he joined at the age of 13. Somehow, it felt right. Once they got out of this, she would be sure to tell Quentin she wanted to join, full-time. For now, though, her eyes darted back and forth as they entered the dark building. Everything had to go as planned. Their intel said they planned to move all of their products tomorrow morning, which was why they were striking at night. Those that worked here lived here. It was the perfect way to keep them under the ringleader's careful watch. She was nervous, but not as much as she had been on their first outing. She felt more prepared this time. It wasn't just the two of them, and she had found her fighting style. Quentin signaled for her to move forward, and she nodded. Their task was to get the workers under arrest or kill them, and then the ringleader. Some of their men stayed outside the building, waiting in case things went sideways and the ringleader tried running. All thoughts about things going smoothly fell from her mind as soon as someone opened the door in front of her, spotting her and shouting. Shit, Quentin muttered, but Grace moved forward as if compelled and slammed into the guy. knocking him to the ground, her knife quickly slicing across his throat. A few others awoke after the scream, and then chaos broke out. Grace seemed to be in her own world, though, as she moved forward, taking out enemies that only had knives. Quentin was hot on her tail, helping her out if needed, but he had honestly never seen her like this before. They turned a corner and Quentin grabbed Grace, pulling her into a room away from a guy with a submachine gun. "What are you doing? What are you doing? You just about walked right into the fire of that man." She blinked a few times. "What?" He nodded. "Having a clear mind to take down your enemies is good, but zoning like you seem to isn't," he hissed. She blinked a few more times, staring as her hands were covered in blood. It should have scared her, but somehow it didn't. "Sorry. It won't happen again." He nodded, falling silent when footsteps could be heard. "Let me handle him. I want to try something." Quentin stared at Grace disapprovingly, but nodded. "Just be careful." She nodded before moving to stand by the door, waiting with each closer-sounding step, and then she jumped out. The man was clearly startled, but still raised his gun to fire. She darted in the opposite direction he aimed, and he tried to move fast enough to shoot, but she was on him in seconds. Her knife stabbed multiple times into his neck. Now she understood what Quentin had meant by her zoning. She didn't remember killing the others, but this man, as he hit the ground trying to cover the wounds to no avail, now she understood, and still it didn't bother her. That scared her, though. Taking another person's life was something she never once thought she'd ever do, but here she was straddling a dying man that she had unfeelingly just stabbed right in the throat. There had been no hesitation in her mind at all. A hand rested on her shoulder. "Let's move. We have to clear a path to get to the ringleader's chambers, and if we get to him before the others, I'd prefer it." Grace nodded, standing and following him. It didn't take them long to reach the ringleader's room, but as they entered, no one was there, and a passage leading out somewhere was open. "Shit," Quentin growled. "We can still get him. Don't give up when we are so close," Grace said, already darting through the dark passage. Quentin couldn't help but chuckle slightly. She was reckless, but she knew the mission was important. To all of them. The tunnel led them out to a small open field and the sound of a chopper. There were men guarding it as it prepared to take off. "No!" Grace shouted, but her eyes were on the men. They were armed with guns and aimed right at her and Quentin. "Shit! Quentin!" Quentin didn't have time to process anything as Grace shoved him out of the way and the sound of guns went off. The two of them tumbled down a slight slope in the grass before going still. The sound of Grace groaning made him worry. "Grace!" He moved towards her and saw blood, along with several bullet holes in the vest. "No, Grace, come on, you can't die on me as well." She blinked a few times. "Ow. What are you on about? I feel like I've been hit by a bus." He frowned. "You're hurt. Don't talk." He glanced over as their backup men arrived, taking out the men who had shot at them, and then shooting down the chopper. He picked her up. "Hang on. I'll get you to the hospital." Grace was still a bit confused, even though her body hurt like hell. Why was he saying she was shot? "Quentin?" "Shh. Just hang on. This was a bad idea. I should have never—" She smacked his cheek. "Put me down and listen, you fool." He stopped in his tracks, surprised. "Listen to me. Yeah, I was shot. Multiple times, but the vest stopped the bullets. The blood you are seeing is from my side, because I hit a rock when we went tumbling down that slope." He stared at her for a moment. "What?" She smacked his chest. "Put me down, for crying out loud. If anyone should be panicking, don't you think it should be me? I wouldn't be coherent if I was actually shot, now would I?" He set her down and she undid the vest before lifting her shirt slightly to show him her side. "See? The rock I hit just tore into me. I already hurt like hell, but the vest did its job. And if anyone is to blame for the mishap, it's me. I just rushed forwards with thoughts of getting the ringleader and nothing else. He nodded. Oh. She began to laugh slightly. And in that aspect, you remind me of my brother. He was always worried way too much if I even got a small scratch. Now, I will agree going to the hospital is a good idea, just to get a checkup and get this fixed up. Okay? But I can walk on my own. He smirked slightly. Sorry, I was just... She shook her head. It's fine, I get it. I only jumped and shoved you out of the way because I knew if anyone would bring my brother's killer to justice, it would be you, and I didn't want you getting shot. The two of them stared at each other for a moment before smiling. Let's head to the hospital and then report back. I want to tell your bosses that I would like to join and become your official partner. He nodded. Sounds like a plan. 8 years later. Grace sat in front of her brother's grave, smiling. I know this probably isn't the future you saw for me, but you have yourself to blame. I have to admit, though, being a secret agent is such a thrill, and Quentin is the greatest partner anyone could ask for. She sighed before resting a hand on her stomach. I didn't expect the two of us to actually fall in love, though. But I'm here today to tell you the news first. I'm pregnant. Going on a month now. I thought something had been strange about my body. I just hope Quentin will be happy to hear about it. And yes, I know, I'll need to quit being an agent so I can become the best mother possible. There was a crashing sound, making Grace jump slightly. She turned, seeing Quentin staring at her, the bottle of wine he had brought shattered across the ground. What? She stood, walking towards him. Well, this wasn't exactly how I planned to tell you. I thought you were busy on a mission. He nodded. I finished it early, but that doesn't matter. Did you just say you were becoming a mother? She nodded. Surprise! I'm pregnant. Going on a month now, and... He rushed her, pulling her into a hug. Girl or boy? Or is it twins? Wait, now we need to get to the agency and have you quit. And then the rooms. I'll start getting stuff for the baby right away, and we'll need to... Whoa! Calm down. We won't know the gender until I'm further along. As for how many, I think it's only one. He nodded. I'm so happy. Let's go to the agency right now. Grace chuckled softly before saying goodbye to her brother's grave, and they headed to the agency to take care of things. Quentin began preparing for their newest arrival, even though the baby wouldn't be born for a while. Grace couldn't seem to slow him down. It seemed to be the worst torment Quentin had ever gone through. Waiting to meet his child, worse than actual torture. The end! I hope you enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun to write, and yes, I did indeed give them a happy ending instead of killing one of them. It was so tempting. I decided to add on the 8 years later part just to give kind of a more full ending to it. I did think about just leaving it off with, woo, they got the boss and she became a full-time agent and that was it. But I wanted to throw in just a little slice of romance. Just a little. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!